Previously on Haseo Reviews.
Plus, it's not like I've deliberately avoided mentioning a certain game this whole time. Capcom definitely didn't attempt to reboot the franchise with a mediocre Western developer who shat all over the franchise's legacy, sold poorly, and caused the franchise to go into stasis for over 5 years, right? Right? Oh no.
And now, the dull conclusion.
Thanks for the recap, Hotspot.
I expect my paycheck in 3 days.
Greetings, everyone, old and new. Welcome to Haseo Reviews. We're at the tail end of the Devil May Cry marathon, and hoo boy are we in for a doozy today. After Devil May Cry 4's success in 2008, Devil May Cry fans were eager to see what direction Capcom would take the adventures of Dante in next. What they were shown at Tokyo Game Show 2010, however, was unexpected, to say the least. Instead of a proper Devil May Cry 5, Capcom unveiled a reboot of the franchise that not only retconned Dante's entire backstory and drastically changed his design, but shifted development from their in-house teams to Ninja Theory, at the time known for Heavenly Sword. Saying that reception to the new direction Capcom had in mind for Devil May Cry was brutally negative would be putting it so kindly that I should be legally able to deduct it as a charitable donation. What ensued was 3 years of back-and-forth marketing struggle, with Capcom attempting to appease an unhappy fanbase by setting DmC, as it would come to be known, in an alternate universe, and altering Dante's design slightly, fans flinging hatred and bile towards Capcom and Ninja Theory, and Ninja Theory generally trolling their haters in interviews and trailers. Eventually, January 2013 came around, and the game was released to the most polarizing response that any game in the series has seen to date. Journalists praised it, fans despised it, and if the fact we're getting Devil May Cry 5 next year instead of DmC 2 is anything to go by, Capcom sided with the fans on this one. But does this game deserve the hatred it gets? Is it truly a bastardization of Devil May Cry's legacy, or is it simply a case of a game that would have fared better if it didn't have such an iconic brand name attached to it? Let's dive headfirst into DmC, Devil May Cry. As usual, I'm starting off with a plot summary, so skip to the timecode on screen to avoid spoilers. As previously stated, DmC Devil May Cry takes place in an alternate universe, and serves as an origin story for our new version of Dante. Here, Dante lives in the outskirts of Limbo City, a seemingly peaceful town. However, there's more to this town than meets the eye. After a night of partying and sex, Dante is awakened by a mysterious girl named Kat, who wants him to come with her. After passing into the demon realm, which is confusingly also called Limbo. Side note, don't give your city in your parallel world the same name, it's lazy. Dante fights off some demons and retrieves his sword, guns, and coat. He accompanies Kat to the headquarters of a vigilante group known as the Order, who are totally not based on the internet hacktivist group Anonymous, led by a man named Virgil, who claims to be Dante's brother. It's here that we learn that Dante has amnesia, which is immediately cured by a trip to Dante and Virgil's old house. Why did Ninja Theory introduce amnesia as an element in their story if they're immediately going to remove it in the next scene? Because fuck you, that's why! After regaining his memories, it's explained that Dante and Virgil are the half-demon, half-angel sons of the demon lord Sparta and the angel Eva. An angel named Eva, the Latin version of Eve. How clever. Eva was killed, and Sparta was imprisoned by an evil demon named Mundus, who now rules over humanity with an iron fist. How does he manage to control humanity without them even noticing? Through a combination of propaganda, drugging them through a popular energy drink, and debt. Yes, Ninja Theory's idea of a fresh take on social commentary is just to rip off the plot of They Live, but with none of the humor. Dante joins forces with the Order, and he, Virgil, and Kat formulate a plan to take down Mundus by dismantling his empire piece by piece, starting with the destruction of the plant that makes Virility, the world's most popular soft drink. Dante and Kat sneak into the factory, and Dante faces off against... Okay, that's literally the Slurm Queen from Futurama. They say it's a succubus, but look at it! It's a giant slug monster that secretes a liquid that's bottled and sold as soda. Ninja Theory, you can't just steal plots from Futurama, play them completely straight, and claim you're commentating on consumerism. Anyway, Dante kills the Slurm Queen, and our heroes move on to Phase 2 of their plan. take down Bob Barbas, the head anchor for Mundus's propaganda network Raptor News, and totally not a stand-in for Bill O'Reilly. Dante ventures into the Raptor News Tower and encounters a demon named Phineas, who was imprisoned by Mundus for rebelling against him. It's here that Dante learns that not all demons are inherently evil. In fact, he may be able to get some of them to ally with the Order. Now there's a thought. Granted, it's a thought that Ninja Theory obviously didn't have, because this plot element is completely abandoned after this set of chapters, and Phineas is never seen or heard from again, so no points to them. Also, Dante gets his Devil Trigger mode. If I don't sound excited, it's because it's treated with the same level of gravitas as passing kindergarten. Dante faces off against Dill O'Malley and defeats him, but not before he's shown that the SWAT team has found the Order's hideout and are raiding it. Dante rushes to HQ to rescue Kat, only to fail. While wondering what to do next, Dante and Virgil receive a video message from Mundus himself, demanding that Dante turn himself over in exchange for Kat's freedom, while unintentionally revealing that he's unaware of Virgil's existence. Virgil refuses to allow Dante to save Kat, and in response, Dante reveals to him some juicy information that Phineas gave him, namely that Mundus's concubine, Lilith, is pregnant with his child. This gives them the idea to kidnap Lilith and hold her hostage in exchange for Kat's safe return. By the way, real creative there, naming the slutty demon Lilith Ninja Theory. I've never seen that done before. Dante infiltrates a nightclub that Lilith owns and hunts her down through a series of extremely padded out trials that just scream, "We had no idea what to do here, so we wasted your time," and faces off against Lilith and her fetus. Somehow the battle doesn't harm the unborn child in the slightest, and keep that idea pinned to the side later. And Dante subdues Lilith, taking her back to his hideout where he records a ransom video and sends it to Mundus. The prisoner exchange is set up, and Kat and Lilith are freed to their respective sides. However, just before Lilith can escape to safety, Virgil snipes her in the stomach, killing Mundus's baby, before shooting her again in the head, killing her as well. Mundus, monitoring the entire situation, is enraged and draws power from the Hellgate in his office to destroy a large chunk of the city. However, in doing so, he drained the Hellgate of its power, providing Dante and crew with an ample opportunity to break in and take down Mundus once and for all. Dante and Virgil sneak in separately, with Virgil handling security while Dante goes after Mundus directly with the intent to draw him away from the Hellgate, cutting him off from his power supply and making him vulnerable. Dante and Virgil make it to the top of the tower, and Dante meets face-to-face with Mundus, exchanging insults with the Demon Lord until he's enraged enough to attack Dante directly. Virgil uses his Yamato sword to close the Hellgate, sealing off Mundus's power source and destroying the boundary between the human world and Limbo, allowing demons to run amok and cause havoc worldwide.
Did it, Patrick! We saved the city!
Realizing he's been bamboozled, Mundus goes berserk and attempts to kill the two brothers. Dante and Virgil succeed in killing Mundus, and the day is saved. Until Virgil, completely out of nowhere, with no prompting whatsoever, makes a comment about how now that Mundus is dead, he and Dante can rule the world side by side. Dante doesn't take the idea of a world ruled by him and Virgil too kindly, and the brothers face off because, I guess Ninja Theory realized that they went a whole game with both Dante and Virgil in it without them trying to kill each other at least once. Kat breaks up the fight before Dante can deliver the killing blow on Virgil, and Virgil escapes as Dante and Kat walk off into the sunset. Where to begin? Where to begin? The story is, to put it mildly, a clusterfuck. It somehow manages to move at too quick of a pace, while dragging on for too long at the same time. There isn't a single likable character in the whole plot, we're never shown the effects of Mundus's enslavement of humanity, and, come to think of it, none of the humans seem to be upset with how things are to begin with, meaning that our designated heroes just upend the whole world's order and unleash unspeakable chaos on an unsuspecting public just to get revenge on Mundus. Mundus himself just sits in his office for most of the game and watches everything happen, so we never get to see him be the cruel, tyrannical dictator he's made out to be. Ninja Theory, here's a storytelling 101 lesson for you when you're working in a visual medium like film or video games. Show, don't tell. Show us how humanity being enslaved by demons has ruined the world. Show us how evil Mundus is. Don't just have Virgil dump exposition on the player every now and then to reassure us that we're totally the good guy in this fight. And as for Virgil, by God, this is a lame depiction of him. He sits in the background and does nothing most of the time, and the twist about him being evil all along has absolutely zero foreshadowing or build-up to it whatsoever. What's truly laughable here is an infamous quote from one of the development documentaries, which you can still watch on the official Devil May Cry YouTube channel, where one of the voice actresses claims that the story is almost Shakespearean in its themes. If you really want to compare this to the works of Shakespeare, this is less A Midsummer Night's Dream than it is A Midsummer Night's Rave. Also, there are plot holes everywhere, even if you aren't actively looking for them. Mundus has the ability to monitor literally everything in Limbo City at once, but somehow never found out Virgil existed? Dante is given the gift of Devil Trigger not from his demon father Sparta, but from his angel mother Eva? And let's talk about Lilith and the baby. You mean to tell me that Mundus's demon baby can remove itself from Lilith's body at will and take dozens of sword slashes, axe hits, scythe slashes, pistol shots, shotgun blasts, and punches to the face and not be hurt at all, but a normal bullet from a sniper rifle is all it takes to kill it? Where's the consistency? The baby itself was a boss fight, but now it can just be headshotted in the womb because the plot demands it? Voice acting here ranges from mediocre to just plain obnoxious. Unlike Devil May Cry 4, you aren't gonna see any big names on this cast list, apart from David de la Tour as Virgil, continuing our trend of Power Rangers alumni in the Devil May Cry cast. Everyone is either stilted and wooden or chewing the scenery, with no median in between. I normally wouldn't be so harsh because, objectively, it's not as bad as Devil May Cry 1's voice acting, but I'd rather be laughing my ass off at the meme-worthy deliveries than constantly on the verge of falling asleep whenever there's a particularly long conversation. The soundtrack is absolutely abysmal as well. Rather than the heavy metal tracks that the series is known for, we're instead treated to a licensed soundtrack by electro-industrial band Combat Christ. While I can't play any of the songs from the soundtrack due to copyright issues, picture going from this
Punch Man Nice
to this. The drop in quality is staggering, and there's zero variety in the songs, meaning everything just blends together into this homogenized mush of wubs and grinding noise. It eventually got to the point where I stopped noticing when music was playing at all, which isn't helped by the atrocious sound mixing, where sound effects are way too loud compared to the music and voices. For the first time in Devil May Cry's history, rather than being made in an in-house engine allowing for a specific, rich, beautiful color scheme like we saw in Devil May Cry 4, DmC is made using Unreal Engine 3. Now, I'm not gonna knock Unreal Engine 3 as something awful. There are some gorgeous games that use it. However, developers with no sense of creativity tended to use it to create drab-looking games consisting of varying shades of gray and brown, which is unfortunately what we're presented with here. The color palette is so muted that it borders on monochrome, apart from a few specific instances, namely Lilith's Club with its bright neon colors, the orange hellscape of Mundus's Hellgate, and anytime you activate the Devil Trigger, where a filter is applied over Dante's coat to make it bright red and to turn his hair a blinding white. Character models have the same range of emotion as the Autobots in Transformers Energon. That is to say, none at all. Dante has this shit-eating grin on his face at all times, no matter what the situation is. Mundus always looks mad, etc., etc. One last nitpick is with Dante's hair. No, not the fact that it's black instead of white. That horse has been beaten to death, resurrected by a necromancer, and beaten back to death several times. Only the hair on the top of his head is actually modeled. The rest is simply a texture applied to his skin. What this leads to is patches of his hair disappearing under certain harsh lighting conditions, and it looks distractingly bad. Now that we've thoroughly covered how the story and presentation falls flat, can DmC at least be saved by its gameplay? Unfortunately, not so much. DmC uses a similar combat style to Devil May Cry 3 and Devil May Cry 4, complete with style ratings, combos, and multiple weapons to choose from. However, Ninja Theory decided that apparently the perfect refinement of Dante's gameplay we got in Devil May Cry 4 wasn't good enough, and decided to change several aspects. Your ranking is no longer based on your actual combat performance. I can't quite nail down what determines it, but it appears that the amount of damage you deal in a single combo weighs more heavily than how varied your attacks are. This effectively means you can spam the same moves over and over and be fine. In a twist on Devil May Cry tradition, you get both Devil Arms and Angel Arms, tying back into Dante's new Nephilim heritage. What this essentially means is you get 2 slow, heavy-hitting weapons and 2 fast-ranged weapons. You can only have one of each equipped at once, ditching the real-time weapon rotation that Devil May Cry 4 had. In an attempt to keep you from using the same weapon set throughout the whole game, you essentially run into what are essentially roadblocks that force you to use a specific Angel or Devil Arm to progress. For example, a cracked wall that can be broken down with the axe. Dante also gets a grappling hook that allows him to either pull objects and enemies toward him, or pull himself toward them. It's primarily used for platforming, but in combat it's a game breaker because enemies have no way of countering it, sucking what little challenge there was out entirely. I suppose that in an attempt to counter the easy combat, Ninja Theory made healing items extremely scarce, but I only found myself healing less than 5 times total throughout the whole game. The game as a whole is entirely linear compared to previous entries. There's no room or reason to explore, just go from point A to point B. If you do find yourself straying off the main path, you may find a secret challenge room, which is locked by a key you need to find. Luckily, any key works on any door, but this is an unnecessary extra step for something that the first 4 games did just fine. In addition to the linear design, there's now a much heavier emphasis on platforming. Thankfully, this is pulled off passably, but without anything unique or impressive to set it apart from other 3D action games. You do get an air boost move later in the game, but it's so limited in its use that it's essentially just a contextual button press. Devil Trigger returns once again, but it's completely revamped in a way that makes it entirely useless. Instead of simply increasing your speed and attack power, it now increases your attack power and causes all enemies on the screen to float in the air. In theory, this makes them sitting ducks, but in practice, they can easily escape your combos or even float out of range of your attacks. Take my word for it, you will never find yourself using Devil Trigger voluntarily in this game. Let's get on with the verdict then. DmC is a wholly unnecessary and pointless reboot of a beloved franchise that tries to appeal to newcomers and keep the core mechanics of the original intact, and fails hard at both. The story is laughable at best, the music is grating, the gameplay lacks any challenge or unique identity to set it apart from the other 3D hack-and-slash games that popped up in previous years, the visuals are drab and ugly, and overall, you can just skip this one unless you feel you absolutely have to experience it for yourself. DmC fell far below Capcom's expected sales figures despite an aggressive marketing campaign, and this version of Dante being included in PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. The series would then go into a 5-year hiatus, only making cameo appearances in other Capcom games until 2018, when Devil May Cry 5 was announced, showing that Capcom has finally put this mess behind them. Ninja Theory would go on to make the breakthrough hit Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, before being bought out by Microsoft in 2018. One last thing of note is the developer diaries on the Devil May Cry YouTube channel. I highly recommend checking those out, since they're edited like late 2000s era YouTube poops and are full of instances of the cast and crew hyping up what would ultimately be the worst selling game in the franchise. Seriously, it's morbidly hilarious. Whew! 5 Devil May Cry games in a row, and 7 Capcom games in a row since I started doing reviews. I think I need to take a break from Capcom games for a while before I get typecast as the Capcom guy. Maybe next time I'll review something amazing from my home state? Tune in next time to find out what. I'm Haseo, thanks for watching, and I'll see you then. Hey guys, Haseo here, doing another little unscripted post-video ramble. Yeah, this ended up taking longer than I thought it would because, in real life I had a play that I was in which ate up a lot more of my time than I thought it would, so that left me with less time than I needed to work on DmC Devil May Cry as a review. But now that that's over, I've finally been able to finish this up. And now I'm going to take a break from, like I said, Capcom games and games in general for reviews next time. I'm not going to say what it is. It's going to be a movie that I know for a fact, you guys have never heard of. But it's going to be a movie, and I'm going to have a guest with me for it because a YouTuber friend of mine, and friend of mine, you know, in general, not spoiling who, has expressed interest in it just from me showing him the cover and telling him the story of how I got it and all the other stuff involved with it. Anyway, yeah, DmC, Devil May Cry Marathon. What a roller coaster this has been. Roller coaster of quality. I had never played through the entire series until now, so this was a real eye-opener for me. Am I ever gonna do marathons like this again? Yeah, but not for a while. I think I'm going to wait until I get more into a rhythm of putting out these videos before attempting another marathon. Anyways, check out my Twitch channel where I do live streams. Check out my Patreon where you can pledge to support me. If you like the video, give it a like. If you like my content and want to keep updated on when I upload new stuff, then click subscribe and then click the little notification bell because YouTube makes you do 2 steps to actually keep up with content creators now because fuck you, that's why. That's really going to help the channel grow if you do that, so I would really appreciate that. If you've got any thoughts, comments, concerns, leave a comment. Yeah, and oh yeah, I've got merchandise now, which I'm selling on Streamlabs. Link to that, depending on whether YouTube allows me to link to it in a card or not. It'll either be in one of the end cards or it'll be in the description. Check either one of those. I'm not sure how it's going to work out prior to this. Right now I'm selling some t-shirts, some coffee mugs, and some phone cases, and some posters and stuff. And also, I hope you guys like my new logo and introduction. I got those done by some wonderful guys on Fiverr. I'll post a link to them in the description if you want to use their services, because I highly recommend them. Anyways, I've been rambling on for long enough now, padding out this video for too much, so before this goes on to be ridiculously long, thank you so much for tuning in, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video whenever that comes out. I'll see you then. Later.